What if the oldest philosopher wasn't here to save you from your ignorance, but to push you into the most uncomfortable corners of your own mind? SFX, clock_tick, 0. 6 Socrates didn't offer you easy paths. He handed you a mirror and then whispered that you must live with what you see. The cost of that invitation is high. The mind begins to question, and the heart hesitates at the edge of certainty. In the crowded agora of Athens, generations ago, a man stood not with a doctrine, but with a method. He asked questions the way a blacksmith strikes iron, not to decorate it, but to shape it. He didn't promise answers. He promised clarity through friction. If you possessed a habit of comfort, his questions could feel like corrosion, gradually eroding the pillars you trusted most. It's tempting to call that noble intellectual rigor, but it also carries a dark undertone. What happens when the relentless pursuit of truth turns into a weapon for unsettling others? The method was simple in its texture, brutal in its rhythm. He would press and then press again, turning your confident claim into a heap of contradictions. Virtue, he would ask, what is it? Is it the courage to face danger? Or the discipline to restrain impulse? Or something truer still that defies simple name? If you answer, you confront your own scaffolding. If you fail to answer, you become a hinge on which someone else's argument might swing. The danger lies not in the questions themselves, but in how a person could wield the questions as a scaffold for power or as a trap for dissent. Let us follow a night in the life of a citizen who sits across from Socrates. As the questions begin to move through the room the way a current travels through a riverbed, the citizen believes he knows virtue because he has observed the brave soldiers, the honest tradesmen, the pious parents. Socrates asks him to map that virtue in a single line, to tell him what virtue truly is, independent of circumstance. The citizen stumbles, then shifts to a more comfortable version. Virtue is simply doing what's right, even when it costs me. Socrates presses, not to humiliate, but to illuminate the gaps between saying what is right and living with that answer in real time. The exchange is not a battle of personalities. It's a battle of definitions. And the dark irony is this: the more precise the definition, the more fragile the confidence around it tends to become. The teacher does not flatter you with a smug verdict. He drags you into the perpetual cave where shadows keep changing shape as you move. The shadows mock you, not to mock you alone, but to reveal what would remain hidden if you always assumed you were already in possession of the light. There's a compelling twist here. Socrates did not believe ignorance was a vice to shame you for, but a state to be embraced as the starting point of real inquiry. Yet there's a threshold where that starting point becomes a trap for those who crave certainty more than truth. If you cling to the image of the wise man who knows nothing, aren't you borrowing a shield too? Protect the ego rather than constructing a path to wisdom. The dark side emerges when the shield hardens into a wall, isolating the seeker from a shared, actionable life. Blind skepticism can paralyze as surely as blind faith can mislead. SFX, dramatic_chord, 1. Consider the political climate that surrounded Socrates. The city's future was fragile, its debates volatile, and dissent was not a mere nuisance, but a risk to the fragile social order. If a teacher can turn questions into destabilizing force, then power, whether in the hands of politicians or popular jurists, can find a way to weaponize doubt. The result is not the triumph of reason, but a reshaping of reason to serve authority. The man who questions everything could become the convenient scapegoat who questions nothing, to the point of erasing personal responsibility. In this sense, the dark side isn't an accusation against Socrates alone. It's a mirror held up to the social dynamics of education itself. The method must be held within a community that knows how to translate doubt into responsibility. Without that anchor, the very engine that promises illumination can stall in the fog of insecurity. The danger is subtle. A generation trained to debunk every statement without building a shared standard. The result is not wisdom. It is a culture of cleverness without commitment. And yet there is beauty in the risk. The world rewards those who can endure the unease of not knowing, provided they carry a discipline that translates inquiry into action. Socrates teaches you to test your beliefs as carefully as a mason tests a cornerstone before laying bricks. If your cornerstone shifts under pressure, you don't abandon the building. You look for a stronger bedrock, one grounded in experience, in communal responsibility, in the ethics of effect, not only in the elegance of argument. The turning point arrives when you realize the purpose of this exploration isn't to prove you're clever, but to refine the compass by which you navigate life. If philosophy is a map, its quality isn't measured by the size of its territories, but by the honesty of its borders. Socrates never promised to decorate life with certainty. He offered a method to keep life from becoming hollow through autopilot routines. The question becomes not whether you can defeat him in a debate, but whether you can live with the questions in a way that makes your days more humane, more deliberate, more courageous. If we were to salvage something humane from this, it's this. Wisdom is not the final verdict of a perfect syllogism, but the ongoing practice of choosing what matters when the answers fail us. The dark side cautions us against letting doubt become a cage. The light, if we are wise, guides us toward a method that insists on responsibility, humility, and solidarity. The Socratic method, rightly used, is a tool for a shared ascent. Misused, it can become a solitary climb that leaves others behind, or a political instrument that confuses doubt for virtue. So the question you carry forward isn't only about Socrates. It's about every teacher who dares to poke holes in what you assume. Every moment you face a decision that demands more than cleverness. Can you stay with the complexity without surrendering your humanity? Can you let doubt teach you to choose, not just a question? The dark side isn't merely the possibility of manipulation. It's the responsibility it imposes on each of us to craft a life that is not just logically sound, but deeply, stubbornly good. To honor Socrates is to honor the willingness to risk personal comfort for collective growth. It is to value the discipline that comes from sitting with uncertainty until it yields some direction, some small act of courage. The true takeaway isn't cynicism about belief, but maturity in how we hold belief and how we move with it in the world. The philosophical detective work becomes a moral practice, not simply exposing error, but inviting in humility, accountability, and a shared sense of purpose. In the end, the dark side reveals a simple truth about any great method. It challenges you to become less certain in order to become more. The paradox is not a defeat, but a call to a higher sense of how to live with questions. Socrates showed us that the soul's health depends on the stubborn clarity that questions demand, and the courage to act when the dust settles. The light that survives the scrutiny isn't the glow of easy answers, but the steady flame of a life that chooses, again and again, to live with integrity. If you've walked this far, ask yourself this. What would you do differently if you treated every belief as a working hypothesis and every day as a test of what matters most? The ancient teacher didn't leave you a map. He left you a disciplined one that refuses to let you opt out of responsibility. That is the unsettling gift and the enduring challenge of Socrates, to keep asking, to keep choosing, and to keep carrying the weight of your own answers with honesty. The dark side isn't simply a warning label on a powerful method. It's a reminder that wisdom is a living practice, not a final trophy. And to practice wisdom, you must walk with doubt as a companion, not as an enemy. In that company, there is danger, but also the possibility of character, and perhaps of a life that finally feels rightly chosen. Outro thoughts don't arrive with certainty, but with a quiet invitation. Keep the questions, but let them guide you toward action that improves the lives of others. If you do that, the darkest corners of the mind become rooms for growth rather than prisons of fear. The question Socrates left with us remains urgent. Are you willing to live with the question long enough to discover what your life might become when you answer with responsibility?